This had better be important.
Yes, sir. The American agent has infiltrated the X-Lab facility.
Welcome back to the Funker 530 Combat Footage Review. Hey guys, be patient with me tonight. We have a very new kind of setup going on in here. I had a little bit of damage that happened to our studio. There might even be an echo that I can't hear. But I had to put everything back together, and I hope I put it back together okay, because it's Friday and it's time for us to get started on the combat footage review. I did want to take a minute to just thank everybody for their patience a bit. So please, again, forgive me if there are some technical difficulties tonight. I'm kind of operating on WD-40 and a little bit of duct tape, if you will. But let's get started. We're going to be headed all around the world to get things started with our combat footage review tonight. And the very first thing that I wanted to cover was what at least was initially reported as an attempted terrorist attack in the Netherlands. Well, I have some additional footage here that you might not have seen. This is just coming to me recently. Check it out. Stand by. Oh, I'm sorry. That's the wrong video. As it turns out, somebody decided to actually make that video in real life. This asshole. So what this guy decided to do is drive all the way up to essentially the main square in Amsterdam and attempted to blow up his vehicle. It didn't actually work out for him. All he ended up doing was blowing up himself, sort of. Really just catching himself on fire. Here is the CCTV footage from that event. Audio's a little low. Yeah, I had to pull the mic away from my face for a little bit. Still working on the cabling and stuff. So pay very close attention to the vehicle. That's what I really wanted to point out here. So if you look closely, this red vehicle down here in the bottom, you'll actually see a very small explosion right there. And it seems to have been loud enough to scare the birds off of this statue of some kind there. But once again, you've got this little umbrella right here. You'll see the explosion inside the vehicle. Right there. Now, all that ended up happening is really just setting this terrorist on fire. Maybe a window blew out because it looks like that's what he climbs out here. He is on fire. Discretion is whatever. Now, these are police that show up right about now, and I believe just behind this pillar. I've got a second angle for you that's going to show you an up-close view of that. Let's go to that second angle right now. Discretion is advised for this one. You're going to see a human being burning. Here's the footage. That's loud. Is that loud for you guys? That's loud for me. Again, all my stuff is messed up. Something notable here is he is still very much on fire. So he's got his arms covering his chest, and when I initially watched this the first time, I thought I was looking at a vest of some kind. I don't know exactly what detonated inside the vehicle. I'm assuming more information may have even come out since then. I actually prepared tonight's stream yesterday. But police show up and put him out. So, I need to say something. I'm going to give you an opinion. There's an argument to be made, and this might seem cold and or callous of me, but keep in mind who we saw in and around that vehicle and the exact timing in which the vehicle, at least this terrorist, attempted to detonate his vehicle with women, children, all walking around him. There is an argument to be made that potentially you don't put him out. That's an opinion. Nobody's perfect, but it is my opinion. Frankly, if you intend to blow up a public square full of innocent people, you probably deserve to burn. Yeah, attempt to, not just intend to. Because the intend to thing kind of gets into the Minority Report stuff, and I was just tweeting about that a minute ago. Attempt to. Let's move on. We're going to head over to Syria, where there is a very heavy bombing campaign going on. This, specifically from Israel, I want to say they levied something like 12 airstrikes in Damascus overnight, maybe last night, the night before last. Here are some of those strikes that we have from Syria. And then I've got a little bit more of these. Another one here. Now on the ground in the south, near Dara, in the far south, an IDF convoy was ambushed by a fighter running a PKM, cyclical PKM fire here. Let's slide over to Yemen. Yemen is the most recently updated section of tonight's stream. I updated it about 15 to 20 minutes ago with additional footage. So if you did catch the video list on Twitter, this did not make it into Twitter. Well, not this one, but one of the future ones here. Now, the Houthis continue to fly swat MQ-9 Reapers. The U.S. has acknowledged that 17 Reapers have been shot out of the sky. Here is one of the latest, or at least the damage.
يا ربي لك الحمد. الله أكبر. الموت لأمريكا، الموت لإسرائيل، اللعنة على اليهود، النصر للإسلام. يا ربي لك الحمد لك الشكر.
هذا حطام الطائرة MQ-9 التي سقطت البارحة.
All I made out from that was MQ-9. The MQ-9 cost is approximately somewhere around about 30 million. Plus or minus, give or take a couple million. You know, some pocket change. All right. Now, the Saudis continue to let the Houthis know that they're not fans, including with this airstrike. One more again. Seems like they're moving into some kind of a cave, dwelling, bunker, rock, campsite. All right, let's bring it back up. It's 17 if you're counting since 2024, correct. Now, CENTCOM. Most people are aware. I forgot the operation name. It's like Operation Raging Rooster or something. 2 R's, Operation RR name. Effectively, a very, very heavy and widespread bombing campaign against the Houthis over the last couple weeks. Now, we were away from the stream for the last couple weeks. 2 weeks ago, I was on travel. Last week, we ripped out all the carpet in my basement and the studio because a pipe decided to blow up in my ceiling. So I haven't had a chance to cover some of this stuff. I do have one of their latest strikes here with their very most recent strike coming up immediately after this. This is a very big boom against the Houthis by United States CENTCOM. It's Rough Rider. That's what it is. Thank you very much. What did I say? Raging Rooster? I think I preferred that. Rough Rider's dope, and I get the nod. Big boom. So right before the stream started, though, I always do just kind of quick check around all of my video sources to see if anything has popped up. But one of you tagged me in a video, and discretion advised, the video that you're about to watch are approximately 70 Houthis gathered at very close distance, definitely not social distancing, that get struck by a CENTCOM airstrike. They are in the open. And I have a quote from President Trump I want to read for you guys while we watch this strike. Again, discretion advised, about 70 Houthi militants get hit by an airstrike in this video. Here comes the footage. So, President Trump, I'm going to quote him. This was on Truth Social. He says, "These Houthis gathered for instructions on an attack. Oops. There will be no attack by these Houthis. They will never sink our ships again." Interesting quote there all around, I would say. Is anybody tracking, is that last part of that tongue-in-cheek with the whole sinking of the ships thing? The boats. Yes, correct, the boats. Why the oops? Because that's what he said. Those are his words. I'll read it again. "These Houthis gathered for instructions on an attack. Oops, there will be no attack by these Houthis. They will never sink our ships again." I think the latter part of that is kind of tongue-in-cheek about how they have sunk something like 57 aircraft carriers, whatever the current number that they're up to at this point. But he did say, oops, that's in the tweet, the Truth Social, the truth that he posted. So, yeah. All right, let's bring it up. And we are headed to Somalia, where we have Al-Shabaab ambushing Somali soldiers at relatively close range. Here's the footage. All right, let's bring it up. I keep messing with the camera, but it still doesn't, I still can't seem to figure it out and get it right. Normally, I think I'm shifted over a little bit or something here. I'm not sure what's going on. Like I said, all my stuff is all messed up, and I'm a creature of habit, and it's super aggravating. But let's move on to Sudan, not Sudan, like not in a sedan. In Sudan, we have Sudanese military just letting loose on a mosque that the RSF, Rapid Support Forces, are holed up in.
مبروك في تدوين جو من هناك هاي بعد ده خلاص بعد ده خلاص استهداف لواء
I don't see anybody wearing hearing protection.
استهداف لواء وجماعته محصنين بدكان دكاكين هنا في لواء ومكعوب ومعاه جماعته الله أكبر الله أكبر.
All right, let's bring it back up. I have one more in our Around the World section before we get into a little bit of footage from Israel. We're going to stop in Myanmar, where there is, discretion advised, a very, very close range ambush that takes place between the PDF, or the People's Defense Force, the, essentially the rebels, fighting back against the authoritarian regime that took power in, 2021? Here is that footage. Again, discretion advised. All right. Let's bring it back up. I'm going to pause here for a second and check in on the support, and thank you guys very much for it. FKDHJFG, thank you for the 34 months. Appreciate that very much. John, thank you very much for the $5. Greatest terrorism blooper ever. What an idiot, dude. Like, wow. Yeah. Anyway. Compiled Tech, thank you for the $5. Are you the Robin Old? I wish I was Robin Olds. If you don't know who Robin Olds is, my word. Google Robin Olds and then come on back to the stream. I give you leave to go and do that. Thank you very much for the $5. Colin, thank you very much for becoming a member. Appreciate, appreciate that very much. I saw you guys complimenting the shirt. Well, I was very proud to be a part of the fundraiser with this shirt by drawing awareness to its availability about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago. So this is actually the first time I've worn it since. So it was something of a deliberate decision. I just decided to wear it again for the first time. Rip. Let's move into our Israel footage that we have. The IDF has re-entered Gaza, and airstrikes definitely continue. Take note of the surroundings in these airstrikes, as well as the airstrikes themselves. I don't have a great exact location on this. Shijaya was mentioned, which is just to the southeast of Jabalia. But I don't know exactly where these are taking place. Anyway, here are airstrikes from the IDF very recently within the past 24 to 48 inside of Gaza. Not to be dismissive, but I'm willing to bet that some of that audio, or all of that audio was added except for the explosions. Just something to think about there. I can't confirm that. That's a hunch, kind of a gut feeling. Don't know. We'll move on to the next bit of footage. I do have a location for this. This will be our first geolocated footage for the night. I don't have a great description for what is at this location, but it was noted as the Kafina family home. Here is the first video that I have for this airstrike. The audio was added. I saw the original vid. Yeah, it just felt very out of place. And then I think I have on the ground close video of this strike. And I realized that I didn't give you guys a very long look at where this takes place. This is exactly here. This building. Just peel out for you. Nusrat. Deir al-Bala there. Gaza City to the northeast. Here is that closer view. And I think this might actually be just after the strike. Yes, it is. I believe there used to be a building there. All right, let's head back up. And speaking of Deir al-Bala, at Deir al-Bala port, which is here, there was an airstrike. We'll be filming or seeing this airstrike probably from, sorry guys, this building, I think. Maybe, because I think we're looking at it down the river here. Maybe from a little bit further up. But that should be our perspective for this video. Video's coming up for you now. Oh. See if we can catch that munition in flight. There it is. All right. Wrong button. There we go. A big airstrike here. This location. And I have noted that it leaves a very, very large crater after the fact. Here comes the footage. One more on the strike. Nobody's annoying me. We're here to watch combat footage, bro. So there's going to be people of all faiths, ethnicities in the chat. I have my religion. They have theirs. The combat footage doesn't have one. So let's move on. I have footage here of an AH-64. It doesn't start that way. So I actually thought I was being lied to when I was told this was AH-64 footage, but it's filmed from exactly right here. Now that Israeli AH-64 is engaging something. Just don't exactly know what. There's the 30 millimeter. And a bird. Are you going to play some Arma Reforger later? Yes. Well, I might get played by the game, but yeah, we're going to give it a shot. .30 millimeter, how many walls does that punch through? All of them. All the walls. It's just going to go through. We did see 30 millimeter early in the Ukraine war get stopped by a standard plate carrier, though. It's because it was a deflected round that had been punched through a bunch of trees, so it had lost most of its energy by that point, but it, was still lodged. The projectile was in the plate carrier. I remember that. Pepperidge Farm remembers that. We're getting ready to move to our Ukraine section. Sorry, guys, 1 second. We're getting ready to move to our Ukraine section. Now, I'm going to force you to watch something. Because I think the perspectives of our leadership, I'm American, the perspectives of our leadership is something critical to understand. Now, I think you should all watch the entirety of the 2-hour and 20-minute long testimony provided by the U.S. European Command Commander and the U.S. AFRICOM Commander. But because we're moving into our Ukraine section, and very specific to that, I suppose I could have cut out the AFRICOM section about al-Shabaab, but I didn't. So here we are. We're going to have a quick look at U.S. EUCOM Commander General Christopher Cavoli and his opinions on the current state of the war in Ukraine. I think this is extremely valuable to at least understand the United States military's official position on the current state of the war in Ukraine. Here you are. Oh, one more note. This is just one small clip. It's about 5 minutes long of a 2-hour and 21-minute testimony. 2 hour, 23 minutes. 2 hour, 20-something minutes. Here's the clip.
In February of 22, we would not have dreamed of such a loss from Russia of tanks, would we?
We would not have. I did not anticipate the war to go this long, and I did not anticipate Ukraine to be able to destroy so much of Russia's warfighting capability.
I hope I didn't break your train of thought, so continue.
No, so as we watch the Russians, we see that they're level of skill in some technical areas is very high and is evolving during the course of the war, but it's mainly isolated in specific pockets. It does not appear to be generalizable across the force, and overall the quality of their force, especially their ground force, has been decreasing throughout the conflict. On the Ukrainian side, we see sort of the opposite. We see a military that started pretty much from an almost cold start. We had been helping them before the war, but not at the scale we began to after the war, and they've evolved and developed very, very quickly. So we've learned a lot about institutional adaptation from watching both sides as well.
If we or our NATO allies had to face Russia ourselves in a conflict, because of what we learned, would we be exponentially better off today because of the lessons we've learned in the last 2.5 years?
Oh yes, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Say a word or two in half a minute about the Russian economy.
So the Russian economy has been both bolstered and distorted by this war. Specifically, the Russian government has had to turbocharge their defense sector. And in so doing, they have created a very strong inflationary pressures throughout the economy, but especially in the civil sector. They've responded to that with high interest rates to hold inflation down. The central banker, Elvira Nabiullina, has the overnight rate, the prime rate is over 21% right now. That is choking off the viability of the civil economy. So one has a huge oversized defense sector, but an anemic civil sector. And that defense sector, as you know, Chairman, is not a productive not a productive economy for the nation. It's productive for the fighting of the war, but beyond that, it has pretty much swamped things out. It appears that it will be very difficult to unwind such an imbalance, and we'll need to consider that as we.
Thank you. General Cavoli, could you give the committee a brief assessment of the battlefield? We hear a lot about Ukraine's challenges, but as I understand it, they are still holding significant territory. They are taking the fight to the Russians and innovating on the battlefield daily.
Sure, Senator Reid. All of the above is true. So if we take just a moment and go down the front line of troops, if you don't mind. So if we start in the northern part of the battlefield, the active battlefield area, that's the place where Ukraine last summer pushed an advance into Russia in an area called Kursk. And they took a large part of Kursk. This is where the Russians introduced North Korean troops to help push the Ukrainians back out. They set an original goal of the end of September to have the Ukrainians out of Kursk. The Ukrainians today are still in Kursk. There is a sizable force holding a sizable, diminished, but sizable chunk of ground inside Russia in Kursk Oblast right now, and they're holding on very good defensive terrain. South of there in Belgorod, the Ukrainians a couple of weeks ago pushed a smaller counteroffensive back into Russia. So we still have a back and forth going up in that area. If we come down inside of Ukraine to some of the big battlefields up in Luhansk, and first of all, there's the city just west of the old Bakhmut called Chasiv Yar. The Ukrainians and the Russians have been fighting over this city and the city to the south of it, Toretsk, for about 8 months now. In recent weeks, the Russian offensives have sort of petered out. They had been decreasing in scale, moving from company size to platoon size, now basically small groups of infantrymen trying to rush forward under artillery fire, and they have failed to gain ground in the last couple of weeks. In fact, the Ukrainians have taken a little bit of ground back from them. If we come farther south from that, we get to Pokrovsk in Donetsk province, where the Russians continue to try to take Pokrovsk. They are stalled out on their axes trying to encircle it. They got pretty close, but the Ukrainians have held the Russians back. That's on the ground. The Russians seem to be suffering from a paucity of armored vehicles and a lack of manpower. The Ukrainians on their side have assumed very strong defensive positions, well dug in, and appear to have solved some of their manpower problems that were so acute last autumn. They've increased the pool of people available for mobilization. They've increased the pool of people available for voluntary recruitment, and they've done a good job squeezing people out of headquarters to the front.
All right, let's bring things back up here. And just a note about that, right? So there's, I was sitting here monitoring the chat, and I knew it would get a little bit interesting in there. Something to understand is neither you nor I know what we don't know. So we have both benefit of being here at home and talking about this war that's happening thousands and thousands of miles away. In most circumstances, there have and probably are some folks from Ukraine actually watching this stream right now. But we have the benefit of that. And we also have that as an inhibitor for us to understand the realities that are on the ground. This is the United States European Command commander. He commands all of United States Army Europe. He has a better understanding of the situation on the ground than anybody either watching this or presenting this. He's testifying in front of Congress under oath, in President Trump's administration. It's not technically in the administration because he's part of the military. So the lies, comments along those lines, this is probably the closest to the truth that you're going to find, right? It's not Biden's, administration continuing to lie. This is the United States European Command commander himself, 4-star general in that position. Let's move on because we have quite a bit of footage from Ukraine to get through. We're going to start in Belgorod. There's a reason the title is what it is, and it was actually mentioned by General Cavoli. Russia is on some level of a defensive in Belgorod. Now, Ukraine is levying just about every capability from a long-range fires perspective that they can, including GMLRS with alternative warhead. This is the damage to Russian choppers sometime after GMLRS alternative warhead with 180,000 tungsten balls was levied on their position.
Шестой керосин тоже льется по звуку. Так, разлет спереди.
Now, those little pinholes that you guys see in everything from the rotors to the fuel lines to the missile pods, those are going to be everywhere. There are 180,000 BB-sized tungsten steel balls that get delivered by GMLRS alternative warhead. I want to say it's the M30A1 and or the A2. Just depends on a few features between the two and a little bit of range difference. Now, these are an alternative, i.e. alternative warhead to something with exploding submunitions, i.e. cluster munitions. These don't explode. They just shred everything. Now, there's a lot of people that think, well, if we don't have the submunitions, which would have both small EFP capabilities for light armor and fragmenting or shrapnel for anti-personnel, well, this was quite literally designed with both of those capabilities in mind. So light armor, those tungsten balls do go through that. But it's also very effective against personnel, and that is very well documented.
Ебануться. Ну прямой прилет. В жопу.
That one, something jumped up and bit that one in the hind parts. Mm-hmm. So what you could be looking at here is, although all of those small tungsten balls come flying out of there, they're actually encased in some form of wax or resin. What's still remaining is the canister, the delivery tube that they come flying in. That continues on its path to Earth. There's a chance that it just hit that chopper as well, because I haven't seen alternative warhead cause any kind of damage like that before. But that's what I would assume happened there. 1 in a million chance, so I could be very, very wrong. Anyway, let's move on. Now, speaking of being on the defensive, there's a reason that I say what I say. Russia, this is a Russian strike, destroyed one of their own dams. Here. We'll take a look at that on the Ukraine control map. That way we get something of an understanding of where exactly that is. Here in Popovka. This was a Fab 3000. So those big honking things that really, I mean, this is a big boom. This is Russia destroying their own dam. Now, it's likely that they're doing that to keep Ukraine from being able to advance any further. I think I have a better, I was going to give you this one, but I think I have one without this watermark. Give me a second here. This one is on the website. Yep, I sure do. I have one without the watermark here. Russia likes to watermark. Everyone, they all like to watermark their stuff. Here is that dam being hit. Oh, my ears are bleeding now. Big boom. This is in Russia, in Belgorod. A Russian strike. Now, there were a few reports saying that the strike itself was ineffective. That does not look ineffective to me. But I don't know what the aftermath truly looks like because we never get to see any aftermath. I'll at least tell you that there were some reports of that. Now, if we pause this and look real close, it is next to the roadway dam area. If you look at where the explosion starts there. Not necessarily on it. So there is some possibility that there is truth to those other reports. They missed the damn dam. You, sir, get an award. I don't know what the award is, but you deserve one for that. All right, let's move to Russian choppers. Presumably engaging Ukrainian positions using that lofted firing technique. You get the damn award. Now, we've examined this before, and when we had footage of the impacts, it's not as inaccurate as you'd think. Definitely an area-based technique rather than something a little bit more point-based. But it's not as ineffective as you think. The total CEP on this ended up being something like 2 or 3 football fields, which is wide. It's large, but we have seen these fall in other footage in the past. So when we first started to see both Ukraine and Russia doing this lofted technique, it's like, well, man, those are unguided rockets. What in the world can the accuracy of that be? It's not as bad as you think, to be honest with you. They've got it kind of down to a science at this point. Certainly not precision. Accuracy by volume, maybe? All right. We're going to head to Luhansk. I've got an interesting video here. This is an American volunteer with the International Legion manning a machine gun nest with a PKM, can't tell. Manning a machine gun nest. I think it's an interesting video. We probably won't get through all of it. It's about 7 minutes long. We'll give you some insight on what it's like to man a machine gun nest in Ukraine. Have you been back on Timcast? No. No, I have not. That's not a PK, actually.
See?
The wooden stock is throwing me off. I mean, whatever it is, it looks like it's firing 7.62 NATO. It just, there's something weird looking going on there.
Might be a cluster.
Yeah, those are NATO spec links. Yeah, yeah. KSP 58. Let me take a look at that.
That was something for behind us. Behind the line, like Martin's position. Oh,
Swedish variant of the FN mag. That's exactly what it is. Nailed it. Nice work, man.
So what I was saying was...
That's why it's weird. I'm not familiar with that. A bunch of you were saying in the FN mag or the 240, but it's the wooden stock. Oof. Field mod? Nope.
It's about 15 meters to our right.
Go check it out and come back.
Let's take a peek.
If you listen, you can hear the drones. Oh, did you see him?
marking. Probably about to hit one of the Russian positions in front of us. Yep, they're shooting at it. Oh, there's one. You got one more.
Look at the trees. Dude sounds like American. He is.
Got him.
This is an American volunteer with the International Legion. All right, let's come back up. I thought that was an interesting contextual vid. But we're headed down to Donetsk, where we have a geolocated video here. This is going to take place here. Actually, let's take a look on Ukraine's control map. This is Ukrainian use of cluster munitions. At least one section, if this is the one that I think it is, one section of this video shows a geolocation of cluster munitions hitting that specific spot. It's one of those montages, if you will. Here comes that video. I understood this to be an assault that essentially gets more or less halted with artillery and drones. There's cluster. More cluster. That's DPICM from a M777 or other 155 millimeter delivery platform. The circular pattern there is the signature. What a stupid war, meanwhile, in China. Stupid's relative. I don't think Ukrainians think it's stupid. You might. Some Russians might think it's stupid. The other Russians don't think it's stupid. All war is kind of stupid, depending upon how you look at it. Anyway, we have, I think these are Russian artillery strikes in Vasily. Vasella? Takes place here. And once on Ukraine's control map, so you can just see where that takes place relative to the forward line. Looks like we're in kind of a buffer zone. Reminding you that anything in purple are gains, I want to say, this year by Russia. So these strikes take place right there. They are coming up for you now. Okay. I have a not safe for work tag on this one. I'm drawing a blank on what exactly it contains. It says Russian assault forward of the line is targeted, but it takes place here. Let's take a look at where it takes place on the control map here. Okay. Well, discretion is advised. This appears to be, based on my shitty notes, a Russian assault that is, yeah, targeted once again by drones and probably artillery. Yep, drones. Now I remember this one. I don't know if assault is the right word. That's artillery. At least I would assume. Maybe a small mortar. There was a lot of fragmentation coming off of that. A bird, maybe? I don't know. I don't know what that was. I remember seeing that the first time. That was just hit with something, more than likely an FPV drone. More indirect there. Cluster. FPV drone. That cluster munition was very well placed. These Russians, correct. Why is Sicario in the top left? I'm not sure. It's somebody's watermark. All right. Let's head to a recent gain of Russia. Small village or town of Rosliv. Here, we'll just keep using UA control map. So this village recently taken. First, though, it was shelled. So here's some footage of it being shelled, conditioned, before infantry moves to take and hold the ground. Artillery can't hold ground. I fat fingered something? What did I fat finger? I've got overlay. What happened? What was it though? I'm like, honestly, I don't know what watermark? What watermark? That's the Clips overlay? What are you guys talking about? The Funker logo was overlaying. Oh. Oh, I think it was this. I did. Yeah, I hit the wrong button. You muted, well, so the mic doesn't route through that. So if you guys, if it wasn't clear what this was, we're looking at Rosliv right now. So Rosliv was recently taken by Russians. This is their conditioning of that via artillery before infantry ends up moving in, since artillery can't take and hold ground. Here is the Russian flag now flying in Rosliv. So, my bad. Hey, normally there's somebody like to work the screens and stuff, you know, it's just me, all right? And I am most certainly imperfect. Here's that Russian flag flying. Let's come back up. This one is a really interesting one. So we've seen stuff like this. I had to check to make sure we weren't on the starting screen. We've seen stuff like this a couple times from both Russians and Ukrainians, but essentially wild man shit takes place here. There's a trench system here that you can't obviously see on this Google Earth imagery. It's weird, though, that it says it's 2025 Google imagery. I don't think that's the case. I think this is older imagery over Ukraine. And I think that's purposeful on Google's part. But it says 2025 Google imagery. Anyway, the best way for me to describe this, once again, is wild man shit. You're going to watch a Ukrainian run up to a bunker and huck explosives into it twice. The first one, we don't see an explosion. The second time, well, here's the footage. So you've got what I believe is a Humvee here suppressing this dugout position. And there's a dude that's running up here, and he's going to huck explosives into this dugout. There he is, right there. Satchel charge of some kind. But we don't get to see this one explode. We're going to see this one explode. Once again, suppression of the dugout there. And then I'm pretty sure this one goes up. And it's gone. There's a second video that I had for this, though, and I'm wondering what it is. Nope. All right. Okay. This one's going to take a little time because I don't know what's happening in this video. I'm going to tell you, we're going to watch it first, and then I'm going to tell you what the reports are. Again, I'm just relaying the context and information that I have. And then I'm going to tell you what I think, which totally does not matter because I'm being honest when I say I can't figure out what's going on here. Here's where it takes place. Just behind the Russian line here. Well, just behind what was just behind. Russia has since advanced, actually, just since I put this on the stream, because this was most certainly not where the line was at the time. So Russia has since advanced a little bit, but it really takes place here. So the dot is here, but it takes place here. I have no idea what's going on here. But here's the video. All right, so these are Russian vehicles moving to that location and tree line that I showed you under artillery fire. If you read Ukrainian, you might be able to infer what I'm going to tell you, or you'll be able to read what I'm going to tell you the original report was for this in a moment. But again, 3 Russian vehicles moving towards that tree line that I showed you. So they've arrived there, and they're going to drop off their dismounts. Presumably some kind of, assault or even troop rotation of some kind. But it starts to back up, and troops continue to jump off, almost as though they're under fire. Then it starts engaging the same tree line that the troops are pushing into. So the way this looks to me, very plainly, is that they didn't expect Ukrainians to be there. Ukrainians were there, and now the BMP has to essentially provide support by fire. The report of this was that the BMP engaged their own troops. But that doesn't make sense to me based on what I'm seeing here. Because they're engaging on one side, and then they're going to go to the other side, and they're going to engage from that side as well. It's a very, very confusing video based on the original report. So now we're on the opposite side of, to your right here would be the Ukrainian line. Ukrainian line is this way, out here. And they're on this side of that line now. I don't know what's happening here. The original report when I pulled this was, this is Russians shooting at Russians. It doesn't look like that to me. This could be providing additional context and information, but I can't read it. So now one of these vehicles is gonna F off down this road and it's gonna get hit by an FPV drone. So again, like what's weird to me, and I'm going to play it out for you exactly what we just watched on the map. What's weird to me is, you know, they kind of just bebopped right up to the tree line, drop off the dismounts, and then engage the tree line, which very much so reads and watches as though it is just an assault on the tree line. Support by fire from the infantry fighting vehicle or from the armored personnel carrier to support the infantry. But then they go to the other side of the tree line and then engage back the other way. I don't know what's happening. Let's go to the map just real quick, just to kind of, again, walk you through that. And we'll just use Google Earth for it. Oop, wrong button. Sorry. Hold on. I probably spent almost an hour trying to figure this out. So again, it's here, and we were watching from about like this, right? So towards the bottom of your screen, this way is going to be the Ukrainian lines. Oops, stop it. This way is Russian lines. So those vehicles moved their way this way, dropped off their personnel roundabout-ish here-ish, and then started engaging this tree line. To me, that's pretty simple, right? They're assaulting that tree line, and there's Ukrainians in that tree line. But according to the original report, they were engaging other Russians. Now, were Russians in the tree line that started engaging the Russians kind of confused? I don't know, man. But what's weird is then they cross around this way, and they start engaging the tree line over this way, with their ass turned towards the Ukrainian line. Anyway, weird one all the way around. I actually wasn't even going to show it to you because I felt like it would just be too confusing. But this is the kind of stuff that I try and really work through, and I kind of wanted to show you one that just confused the shit out of me. Let's move on. We have a medevac here. We have a Humvee pushing through artillery fire to evacuate wounded Ukrainians.
Чубик, я принято, прием. Да, до нього. Давай, ріще, закидуй, біжи його, забирай. Все, залазь, ти біжи назад. Він залізе, все. На праву ногу турнікетом наклади. Все, кров пішла. Чубик, прийом. Я Чубик. Треш забрав. Посилку оставив. Прийнято, прийом.
those Doritos? Note their window. Note their window. So you might have missed that. They have been taking fire this time. This isn't there earlier in the video. They are certainly taking fire. LOL at the cross. Jesus would approve of all this murder. Praise be to the Lord, my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle. I think they got a flat there. All right. Let's move to the next one that I have here. We have a Ukrainian tank that gets bebopped by a drone. This is going to take place here. Let's take a look on the control map. I used to be able to download the control map and basically just import it into Google Earth, and it would allow us to use Google Earth without this big stupid thing over here, but well, see, that's why I don't paste. Well, it takes place about there, though. And here comes the video. I see all the support from you guys, and thank you so much for it. Just trying to push through this next section here, and then I'll be reading off all these super chats. Thank you for it. It is wholly unnecessary. This is a free stream. It'll always be a free stream. But I can't thank you enough. This is a Ukrainian tank. Oh, there's another one I meant to add. A Leopard taking a direct hit from an FPV drone. I think that one's right on the Funker homepage, though. We'll pull that one next. I don't know where it takes place. This is in Zaporizhia, by the way. We have moved into Zaporizhia. All right. Again, that was a Russian drone strike. Let's see if I can find that Leopard. It's like a first-person view of a Leopard taking a hit from... Here, we'll head to the website together. All right, so no, I want Ukraine right there. Let's take off combat, and let's just do this week. Leopard. Who's got the leopard? Where'd it go? We've just uploaded that much. Ah, there it is. Bing bong. I guess it wasn't very direct. Kind of hits it in the low, like near the track. Damn it. Might not even hit it. I don't even think it hits it. Does it even hit it? Throw a track? No, it keeps keeping on. Think it missed it? Yeah, I don't know, man. Swing and a miss. All right, let's head to a little bit of MiG-29. So this takes place here. We're now all the way down in Kherson, and I'm trying to get us to Crimea before we close things out because there's something I really want to talk about. It's going to take place here. This is a MiG-29 airstrike, Ukrainian MiG, on that presumed Russian position. Here we are. Whoa, bro. Here you go. I shouldn't have said presumed. There's Russians walking in there. Oof. That one's very, very interesting. If you see the first munition hit, bunker buster. See all the smoke coming, or all the dust and debris coming out this way? It just punched through the top of that. So if I understand correctly, this was a major strike from Ukraine. This is some form of for the area in Kherson command center. I've seen command center used quite a few times for things, so forgive me if I don't have the very specific context on this one. Again, I put the stream together yesterday. But there is some significance to this strike. I'll put it that way. All right. Let me see if I have that in my notes anywhere. No. Nothing further on that one, guys. Did you say that you were not perfect and you press buttons? Correct. I pushed a button. All right. I got a 113 that gets bopped by a drone here. Let's see what that one looks like. And then we'll probably close things out with what I have from Crimea, which is actually a bit of a technological leap forward. This is a 113 right there, operated by Ukraine. That takes an FPV drone to it. And a PG-7 is going to punch right through that like it doesn't even exist. And then fire catches. That's what I was scrubbing for. think it eventually goes up. Oh, there it is. Now, there's probably some munitions stored in there of some kind. I don't know. That could be like a mortar position or something. And they're storing a few extra rounds in there, which you totally shouldn't do. Actually, what is that on the ground next to it there? What is that? It looks like something of significance. I don't know. There's something explosive in there because a 113 isn't like your T-Series tank that it has an auto loader in it that's just going to detonate. So something in there didn't like being hot. Big shotgun shell. I suspect you might be watching at the beginning when we were talking about the M30 A1 A2 alternative warhead Gimlers. That thing's still burning. It takes an intelligent man to know how stupid he is. The more I learn, the more I realize how much I don't know, frankly. I don't know if that's intelligence or not. I just begin to realize that I don't know shit. So I also am typically very suspicious of people that tell me they're an expert in things. Because a true expert in my mind will really just tell you that they're not one, frankly. And that they are still continuing on the path of expertise, the pursuit of knowledge in some way. All right, let's jump to Crimea. I want to talk about this. Actually, no, right before we get to that. Yeah, I'm going to cover Crimea last. Yes, I want to cover one from the archive. I'm going to take you back to 2023 and the Wagner Rebellion. There was a thread, a conversation, reports that Wagner had shot down a Russian chopper. I never saw any video of that taking place. I think we might have seen some photos of aftermath. This could have been something that was very much so out in the environment, and I just missed it. But then so did a whole litany of other people that I know that follow the footage very, very closely. This is footage of the Wagner Rebellion in 2023 of a Russian Ka-52 being shot out of the sky by Wagner. I was told this didn't happen. Here is the footage.
Сбили вертолет, подбили! Подбили вертолет!
So, regardless of, this might just be one that I missed. I did want to highlight something, because something you don't get a lot of footage of is the K-52's ejection seats. Somebody told me years ago, and if some of you are familiar with my function in the military, and this is why this might surprise you. Somebody told me years ago that the K-52 had ejection seats. And I thought that was the goofiest damn thing ever. It's like, what do they do? Just eject them into the rotors? Well, the way it works, actually, is the rotors have their own ejection. There's an explosive in there. So some Russian was like, hey, let's blow the rotors off of it, and we can then eject the pilots. This is one of the few clear videos of at least the initiation in a combat scenario of the ejection seat. You're seeing at least a portion of that here.
Сбили вертолет, подбили!
Now watch very closely here. Oh, we just missed it. Let's slow this down. No, that's the quality, you stupid idiot. To 0.25. And you can actually see the rotors fly off of it. There they go. I don't think the pilots made it. I think that there was still time necessary for the rest of the ejection cycle to take place. But then again, I don't remember what the specifics were about whether the pilots were killed. Again, we're drawing from the archive here because I thought this was interesting. It is the combat footage show, not the combat news show. But there they go. Rotors come off. And the reason I don't think the pilots made it out is the rotors are supposed to come off before the pilots do. So at first I kind of suspected that, given we have two kind of ejections almost here, that the pilots could have ejected. But if the rotors don't come off until here, right, after that first ejection or whatever, that cook-off or explosion or these two smoke trails were, I don't think the pilots made it. Are you saying they got chopped up? No, I'm saying that I don't think that's, unless that's the case, I don't think the pilots were able to fully eject. Bird. Because presumably the pilots would have ejected sometime after this point. So right here. So once those rotors get popped off of there, presumably then the system would eject the pilots. I don't see an ejection happen after that. All right, let's jump to Crimea. This is actually kind of a big deal. And we're talking about technological leaps. So we're not necessarily talking about solely, because no one capability wins a war. None. It's not how it works, unless it's a nuke. So I get that. We're not talking about that. No one capability of conventional weapons wins a war. But when you have a technological leap in something as novel as the use of drones, something like a live feed for extreme long-range drones. Extreme long-range drones have been used by both Ukraine and Russia for, quite a while. Russia has like the Shaheds. Ukraine flies those like Cessna damn things all the way into like thousands of kilometers into Russia. Some of the limitations to those, though, is you don't have a video feed. Frankly, it's too far away from the operator to really transmit video back to the operator. So what you would need is a cost-effective means to transmit video back to the operator. Now, Starlink, the problem is the data link between the drone and Starlink is, or at least previously, was extremely cost prohibitive, because you got to remember, each time you put a connection with Starlink in this damn thing to transmit video back, you're just sending it to explode on something. Well, Ukraine now has a capability for extreme long-range drones, all the way down, striking in Crimea specifically. This first video we're going to watch takes place here, with a data link including video back to a live feed. So that's going to increase survivability of these. It's going to increase accuracy, right? You'll be able to retarget if you want. But with the Shaheds and those Cessna things, whatever the hell they are, you really just plug in, you launch it and tell it where to go, right? You can't monitor it on the way there. It's actually one of the reasons that some of these drones keep getting impacted by electronic warfare capabilities and just veer off into like apartment buildings. Because, frankly, they're just following a GPS path to their target. But with that live feed, this would, for me, be a major technological leap forward for this capability. Here's the footage. The very first, I think this is the one. We're also going to see a really interesting, yeah. We're going to see some really interesting anti-air activity. Not on this one. Check it out. So that's a Pantsir. Near miss on the drone there. Oh, is it Tor M2? Oh, my bad. Yeah, it did say that right down at the bottom. I think the next one might be Pantsir. So this is the other capability that you get with these long-range drones, is you can putter them all the way out to Crimea, and instead of having to hit static targets, you can fly it into mobile targets. Again, a pretty big jump in the capability of using drones. Now, we're not quite to the autonomous level where you can send it up there and it just kind of goes and putters around and finds its own target, you know, whether it be some kind of optical signature or whatever. I actually really don't like the thought of that. That's kind of Skynet-y, if you ask me. But, you know, again, the difference in the Shaheds and those other drones to this, if you look at it at a true foundational level, it's a major leap forward. This is going to be a Pantsir S1 trying to engage, again, one of these drones striking into Crimea. The only problem, well, here you go. It launched twice. The tethered ones give you live. Yeah, you got to remember, though, those are going to be inside of like 10 kilometers. The furthest that we've got reports of the fiber optic drones being used is about 10K because, again, you've got a spool of fiber optic wire coming from it. So we're talking about strikes, I mean, thousands of kilometers from the forward lines here. That live feed, reportedly enabled by Starlink, is absolutely a major change. Yeah, that missile totally face planted the ground. 2 of them, back to back. Yeah, there are 2 there. Watch. So you got the first one. Come on. What the hell? Oh, yeah, it's all the way over here. So there's the first one. And there's a second one. Have you seen the long video? No, I haven't. Just these 2 short clips. Who's Paul Harrell? My brother. I want you immediately. I'll be streaming after this, but I don't want you to go there. What I want you to do, what I want one of the mods to do, is to drop Paul Harrell's link in the chat, please and thank you, and go watch every single one of his videos. Just that's what you should do. That's your homework for today. All right, guys. That just about closes out what I had for you tonight. I do appreciate you, as always, for stopping by. I need to go through all the support from you, and thank you guys so much for it. We'll start from the top down here. John, thank you very much for the $5. Ronnie is the most humble news report. I'm not. Thank you very much for the $5, John. I appreciate that very much. I'm not a news reporter. I'm not your news anchor. Mariah, thank you for the $5. Thank you and the rest of the Funker team for all you do. Thank you very much for being here. We appreciate you. Elite Super Grunt, thank you for the $5. Keep it up, Ronnie. I love this show for its educational value. I do try to inform as best as I can. I don't claim to be an expert in any specific munition or anything, so I'm happy to hear you find value in it. John, thank you again for another $5. Ronnie, favorite sci-fi? Ooh, not really. Dune. Yeah, probably Dune, actually. Books and movies. I like both of those things. They are not necessarily exactly the same, but I like the world in each of them. And both movies, too, all 3. Yeah, the old one and both of the new ones. I love all of them. Doug, thank you for the 31 months, dude. Glad to keep supporting this. Well, thanks for being here, and I appreciate you. 31 months is a long time, brother. Jay Turner, thank you for the $50. I try to make it whenever I can. Thank you for everything you do. Just happy I was able to finally make it on your birthday. It's not my birthday. It's not. It'll be in September. I feel like, at this point I could tell you it's my birthday and you're not going to believe me. Right. You know what I mean? Like, I always am afraid that I'm going to be the asshole because somebody's going to jump in here and I'll say this again and be like, oh, it's his birthday. I'll throw $2, And then I end up saying it's not my birthday, and then I'm the asshole because he gave $2, he or she, whatever, gave $2 thinking that it was my birthday. Like I've gone on entire other podcasts, like large podcasts, and you guys took over the damn chat. And Phil Labonte, so Timcast, I went on Timcast, and Phil Labonte texted me in the middle of the damn show and was like, "Is it your birthday, bro?" I was like, "No, it's not my birthday, dude." Jesus. Where are we at? Jay, thank you very much again for that $50. I appreciate you, buddy. John, thank you again for the $5. Tech Priest Ronnie applies the watermark. Yeah, I fucked that up. That's my bad. Yeah, whatever. RC Cape Cod, thank you for the $5. Thank you for all your efforts to show reflects how much you care. Oh, well, thank you for that. I do think this stuff matters. I think there is value in understanding the lessons that we can get from modern conflict, but also from historical conflict. That's why once upon a time we had a historical combat footage section, and I might try and bring that back, right, using some of the historical footage. We're about to change a few more things on the website. So if you notice, there's now conflict landing pages. So when you click on the category for Ukraine, for example, it used to take you to a landing page. I think we pulled those back because we're refining them. But we want to have the same for, as many wars as we can find footage for. That's because we're a combat footage archive. People always think that we're some kind of like a live leak competitor. It couldn't be further from the truth. We truly, in 30 years, when you want to know what a war in, 1940 looked like, if I can find footage of it, we would like for you to come to the website and take a look at what that is. Right? The same thing with trench warfare in 2023, 2024. 30 years from now, we hope to be the archive for that. Thank you very much. Sick and Brandon both gifted 5 memberships. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that. Theocracy Sean, thank you for the $20. Do you still have that spinning tank turret video? The one with the otter? No, I can't find it, dude. No, I can't find that anywhere. I used to have it in my phone. I giggled at that for way too long. What else do we have here? Thank you guys for all this. Dude, dope stash, thanks, man. It's my hog killing stash. I won't be here next week. I'm going to be killing hogs in Texas. We'll talk about that on the next stream. Following right after this one, actually. And that's it. Guys, I appreciate you so very much. Thank you very much for being here. I just mentioned fleetingly, and I'll cover that quickly. I won't be here next week. I'm going to be in Tejas doing a little bit of hog hunting and culling that population. I'll shoot as many of them in the face as I can. I don't care. I'm here to help. But I have some awesome tools that I'm going to take with me to do that. If you'd like to talk about those tools, why don't you swing by the stream immediately after this one. The chat will give you an option to jump right over there. I love you. Thank you for being here. Good night. Go be great and stay informed. I forgot. I have one more video for you. Here you go. This is what I leave you with. All problems are nails, and I will always have a hammer. Those are mines. Good night.